Hello.
Hey, can you hear me all right?
I'm just going to put a banner on for who you are. There we go.
Can you hear me? Because
And
I
then,
can hear you, but not through my headphones, which is weird.
oh, okay. Well, I can hear you, yes.
I'm just going to unplug them. That's fine. We'll skip that.
Hello, and welcome to anybody who's joining us.
Hey, nice to see you.
Yeah, lovely to see you, Luke. I have your little bio on my screen, on my phone screen, so I will just grab that and I can introduce you properly.
Perfect.
Yeah, for anybody out there, I would offer them cookies too. I have white chocolate chip cookies next to me.
Oh, very nice.
Okay, so hello and welcome to Lunar Pumpkin. I am Emily. I am an astrologer and tarot card reader, and I love all things related to the moon and yoga. And a quick shout out to Emily Harvey Art, if she happens to be here, and any of her lovely followers from the eHearts market that's happening today. Right, let me introduce you to my guest. For some reason, I can't seem to put your banner on the screen, Luke. That's a bit weird. I did write it out. So, come on, get on the screen. Okay, so my lovely guest here, Luke, who's been ever so patient with me. We will be talking all about transformation because it is Scorpio season, about birth, death, rebirth, desires, and business. So, Luke in 2009 sorry, let me. I don't know why I'm nervous. I'm not usually nervous. Anyway, so yoga found Luke in 2009. For 12 glorious years, it was the most special part of his purpose. And we will go into a bit more of that later and the sort of transitions and things. In 2021, the universe decided it had other plans for him when he fell down one fateful step and broke 6 bones.
Right.
Wow. Derailing his yoga career for the foreseeable, at least the physical practice part of it. In creating LV Life, Luke aims to reach people who are in need of transformation in the same way that he has had to transform and reinvent his life over and over. He wants to use these experiences to help others go through similar processes without the pain of having to figure it all out alone. Human design allowed Luke to understand himself on a much deeper level. Through human design, he learnt his best working methods, optimized his relationships and lifestyle. Luke also has a gift for inspired tarot reading. This provides an extra tool that can be used for guidance and inspiration while navigating your way through those pivotal moments in your life. Wow. So, how are you today? You all right?
I'm good, thank you. I'm sat in my new space, feeling just very in heaven. It's crazy. I call it my little piece of heaven. I just love it. I've had 2 studios prior to this, but this one just feels extra special.
Beautiful. Didn't that open on the 1st?
1st of November, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. In a little bit, maybe we'll dive into what you offer and things there. But first of all, should we go back to your journey? So how how you transition from yoga and your unfortunate missed step.
Right.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, okay. So yeah, yoga was, I guess, if I go back right a little bit, I was in the corporate world for 13 years. I worked mostly in human resources management. Interestingly, not a lot humane about it. But it drove me to insanity. It just wasn't meant to be. And in parallel with that, I was exploring spirituality. I'd started yoga. I think after 9 years of yoga, I was like, I could probably do this. And then I started to study. I didn't just do a quick course. I did like a 3-year, 500-hour course, just to really immerse myself and make sure that before I made the decision to jump ship from the corporate world, that I was going to be in good stead for creating a really lucrative and fulfilling business. So I did. It coincided with my husband and I adopting our children. So it was a whole lifestyle reshape, and it was beautiful. And I was running this lovely yoga studio in alignment with another friend. We were sharing a space, and then for whatever reason she decided to stop teaching, so I relocated, created a new space. That new space then was opening on the 21st of March 2020, which was the weekend we went into lockdown for the first round of COVID lockdowns. So just from the get-go, that second studio was just a disaster. There had been some horrendous things happening at that place before I'd even moved in. And then I got up and running. Business was wonderful, really booming. And then I had my accident while cleaning the studio. So the universe, no. I know. So
no cleaning for you.
Don't clean. So that had me out of work for a year. And I'm now just over 13 and a half months since my accident. And it completely reshaped the way that I think about yoga, the way that I think about what I do, my purpose in the world, and the way that I want to operate in the world. And what was really fascinating is right before my accident, I'd written this thing called Life Reimagined coming soon. And it was like this advert up in my studio. And then that happened. My life was reimagined very quickly. So I'm obviously good at manifesting. And yeah, so from that, I guess this 13-month period of not working really highlighted a lot of stuff, and it brought a lot of things to the surface, not just from a work perspective, but life, and everything that I am and everything that I want to be. And then this space came up, and it just felt so right. I was magnetically drawn to it. I cannot describe it. I wasn't even looking for a new space. I wasn't even looking, and it just came up, and here I am. And 13 or so, it was 13 months to the day that I opened this from my accident, and 13 in numerology, as it turns out, seems to be about new starts. So
yes, yeah. So although my book hasn't got there yet, I have so many projects on the go. It's my Gemini kind of thing. So actually, that might be a good segue, actually. So I am Gemini Sun, a Gemini Rising, and I have a Capricorn Moon. And I believe you know your big three as well, Luke.
Yeah, Aquarius, Capricorn Moon, and no, Capricorn Rising, sorry, and Scorpio Moon.
So that's, the emotional sort of temperament and sort of what makes you feel comfortable and everything is all related to Scorpio for you. I mean, we are actually, for anyone watching us, we are going to exchange readings next weekend, which would be really exciting.
Very exciting.
But it is quite interesting that the number 13 has come up for you so much. And I did, as I was going to try and say, I am sort of writing a tarot and astrology guide, so putting the two together. And I thought it'd be quite interesting to read out what I said for the 13th card. Yeah. You're happy? So let me just scroll through. Oh, I did a print screen of that as well. I don't want to use too much internet on lots of other things. So, funny enough, it's the death card. So this card is not about actual death of a person, but about the death or end of a circumstance or situation. And how relevant is that?
Right.
So what we're talking about with everything you've been experiencing here.
Yeah.
So death, rebirth, and the restructuring, the breakdown of the old to build new structures and ways of being. So I went and looked for a few quotes and things from people who'd created tarot decks when I was writing the book, although it's not technically fully finished, although it's mostly there. It's getting there. So Aleister Crowley had said, I now say yes to death and yes to me, which I found quite interesting because it's although there is a lot of fear which comes into it, some of the sort of Scorpio realm as well, a lot of the fear that a lot of us have of the unknown, because things are often below the surface and you have to be in flow with why am I getting so tongue-tied? But yeah, you kind of have to be in flow with your life, but also your inner realm, sort of your emotions and your mind and everything together in order to fully actualize in the way of going with Scorpio, as it were. So it's kind of, it's interesting to see it as saying yes to death, because we actually have our cells repair themselves every 7 years or so, and that is like cell death. And so we actually, every single day, there is a death to cells within our body. And I mean, half of the layers of our skin are actually dead cells. So it's kind of, with everything within us, there is always, death is always a part of life. And another quote that I'd put within my little description thing was, oh no, it's not actually come up. Oh well, I'll just read the rest of it. But basically, there's a nursing model, because I did a bit of nurse training years back, and that was my kind of transformation thing of, I'm not meant to be a nurse. Literally, Crohn's got in the way, inflammatory bowel disease. So yeah, I kind of know some of the ilk of having to transform and how sort of divine comes in to turn your life around.
Yes.
Either that or
what the universe delivers us, isn't it?
Yeah, either that or Saturn. But yeah, what I was going to say was, okay, the death card has links to knights, as it's a figure on horseback, and knights focus on forward motion. So again, if you're looking at the death card and looking at the realm of Scorpio, it's not there to be malicious, to be controlling, and to be scary. It's there to actually bring these things up to the surface and actually see them for what they are and the truth there, because it's all about that sort of deeper truth and actually holding space in some respects. So yeah, that and 13 numerology actually equates to 4. So we can look to the Emperor, which is about Aries energy. And Scorpio is actually ruled by both Mars and Pluto. So you have that motivation there, but you also have that sort of need for transformation. It's bringing things up to the surface, and some of it's to do with sort of excretion in the body and things. And it's kind of, yeah, things that are a bit taboo, but things that are actually, in some respects, need to be talked about, but aren't.
Right. It's interesting.
It's awakening humanity to that deeper truth that we're not facing.
Yeah, that is so pertinent. So very. I was having a coaching session yesterday, and that kind of conversation came up about, what is my purpose, what is my why. So that's really interesting.
Oh, what's his name? But there is a quote that says, when you know your why, you can endure almost any how.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I like that.
What's his name? It's like Dietrich something, and I can never remember it when I want to remember who said it.
Yeah, a nice quote. We'll take it.
We'll take it. Oh, yeah, I do remember when I only met you in person once when we did some yoga together. It was a sort of yoga relaxation day. You'd had a lovely candle meditation in there, and then there was obviously a sort of vinyasa flow sequence, and there was a chakra meditation there as well. Just lovely. Absolutely lovely.
Yeah, happy there. I'm so pleased you enjoyed it.
Yeah, but I'm also excited for your new path.
Yes.
And seeing where that takes
you. Me too.
Should I actually? I'm going to leave that aside. Let's just talk. Let's flow. So How have things gone with opening your new healing practice so far?
Yeah, so what's the date today? The 12th, so 12 days in. I cannot tell you what this space means for me. It's like an exhale. This is the way I described it when I was talking to my coach yesterday. It feels like a big exhale. I think the last year has been so turbulent and traumatic. And what I've learned, and I know that we're going to come on and talk a little bit about human design in my transformation. But my transformation, my environment in terms of human design is caves, which means a safe, secure space where I can be, where I can recoup and recover and be nurtured and all of those things. So I feel that I've created this, whereas my previous space, as you know, was shared, both my previous spaces. So I managed the last space, but I sublet it. And prior to that, I shared with somebody. So I feel like the universe has been saying, this isn't right for you. This isn't right for you. You must listen. And now I've been directed to this space that is mine. And it is just such a beautiful, energetic space that I can create from, that I can heal from, that I can invite people in that I want to be here, and work with those people. And it's been so well received by the people that have come in for services. I've had a couple of fully booked days since I started. I don't operate here full time because of the kids. And I've had a lot of lovely cards and messages of support, and it's just, if I looked at myself this time a month ago, I can't have imagined feeling this good this time this month.
Oh, that's amazing.
There's a lot of apprehension about taking it on because of previous experiences, but equally, I've never been afraid of change, and I've never been afraid of failure. So, I jump in feet first with everything. I feel like this time maybe I landed.
Yay!
Yeah. I'm looking forward to having
I can listen to you talking about your journey for hours. I really could.
I could. I'm very good at talking about myself. Yeah, I mean, do you want me to elaborate a bit more on how I found human design through this process, or should we say that?
Yes, please. Go for it.
Okay, lovely. So I, sat on the sofa in my healing state. I literally was incapacitated for a significant amount of time. There's opportunities in that. There's opportunities to wallow, to process your emotions, to hate yourself, to love yourself, to educate yourself, to learn and grow and everything else. I went through everything you could possibly imagine in that time of being incapacitated. But through that process, one of my good friends from Australia messaged me and just said, "Have you heard of this?" And I was like, "No, what is this human design?" She sent me a link. She must have just Googled it and come up with the first link that she found. I don't know. And she sent me this. She didn't really know anything about it either, but someone had told her. So she sent me this link, and I looked at it, and I instantly was like, "Oh, this is interesting." And I booked myself a reading. The reading was way beyond my budget at that point, because obviously when you're not working, you're not earning. But I was like, I'm just going to do it. I don't know why. I feel compelled to book this reading. So I booked it, I had it, and I was like, oh, it's like this massive light bulb moment of, I've been behaving in one way this whole time that I've been trying to be self-employed. And I kept repeating burnout, right? Even through my employment, it was like this cycle of work hard, I need this, I must achieve this, I must do this, burnout. Do it all over again, burnout. Do it all over again, and burnout. And obviously the universe was like, okay, I've had enough of this, and physically broke me, so I had to stop and listen. But through that, through now discovering human design, I was like, I'm not supposed to work this way. This is not who I am. So for anyone that knows human design, some of the personality types on there. So Manifesting generator is what I thought I was, which is somebody who has a million different interests and zigzags around in life, perhaps looks a bit scatty to some people. But all those interests mean something, and they're all for a reason, and they all guide you somewhere, and maybe one day they're all going to meet and they're going to create something new and wonderful and exciting in the world. So manifesting generators, the word, think of the word generator, like they can go and go and go and go, and because they're interested, because they're keen, and they can just go and push through and keep generating. And I kept doing that. That's how I was living my life, and I kept burning out. And so when I discovered human design and I learned that I'm a projector, I was like, oh, a projector is a low energy being, not a high energy being.
Okay.
So a projector, if you think about a bird sitting on a branch of a tree, and all of the elephants and all of the ants and all of the other animals are doing their thing. They're all generating in the world. They're all making the world a brighter, happier place. They're keeping it turning, keeping it moving, right? But then you get this little bird sat up on the tree that can see from above, that can look over the plains and see where efficiencies can be made, where people can improve their lives, where just seeing a world from a different perspective. And I've always seen the world from a different perspective to the average Joe. And as interestingly, been one of my biggest frustrations in life is that I see the world in a different way and nobody gets me. But now I understand it, because I'm this projector type, and I'm only supposed to be doing output for, say, for example, 2 to 3 hours a day. And the rest of the time I'm supposed to be learning, observing, self-caring, and honing my skills and really enriching my ability as a projector, because then in those 2 to 3 hours I can really make a difference and an impact in the world. So it's been really fascinating for me to learn that about myself, and it really is very different to how I've been acting before. And so I've started to make these shifts, make these changes, and start living more authentically in my human design, and things are changing, and it's wonderful. And I've never felt so flipping calm in my life.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, really. So it's been it's been a life-changing opportunity, this whole experience over the last 13 months, but particularly discovering human design towards the end of that has really enriched that experience and really made me not go insane, I think, is the truth.
Wow. Of course, now that you know more about it, then you can give that to other people and help them with their experiences.
Right. And ultimately that is all I want to do in the world, is just to allow people to realize that the world doesn't have to be this big, scary, fearful place where we're trapped, where we don't have opportunities, where we have limits and limiting beliefs and all of those. I just want to, I don't like using the term wake up, but I can't think of a better term just at this time, but I want to wake people up from that, just being a just being like a cog on a wheel and not really thinking about how life could be, but just doing what they know, right? I want to people to realize that the world is a bigger and brighter place, and that we can still do the things that we do in our daily lives, but if we go about them with a slightly different mindset or attitude or realization, then we can create much more beautiful things in our world and feel much freer and feel much happier and healthier. I think healthy is so important.
Yeah.
We're a very chronically sick society, unfortunately, and I just think there's so many opportunities to turn that around that we're missing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I do find it's quite interesting, actually, that I think there must be some crossover, although I don't know much about human design. I think there probably is some crossover with astrology.
Can I just explain how that works, actually? Because it's
go for it.
Yeah.
Enlighten me.
So human design is taken from the philosophies of astrology, of the I Ching, of the chakra system, and the tree of life, right? And what it does is it extracts the science from those things. So we know that, most people who are in our realm of spirituality and the mindsets that we are learning, that science and spirituality are so interlinked, but unfortunately the world doesn't always see that. So in human design, we use astrology, we use the birth chart.
Okay.
But it's a double birth chart. So we have the birth chart when we take our first breath.
Yes.
And then we have our human design day, which sounds a bit culty. It's not. It's 3 months from the day before you're born, which is when the belief is that the soul enters or the spirit enters the fetus.
Okay.
So 3 months before we're born. So we have, and then it merges those two charts together and generates your human design. And it works where it links then with the I Ching. And if we look at Eastern medicine, they use the meridians, right? The energy systems in our body. So it talks about the 64 energy channels in the body. In science, we have 64 codons of DNA.
Oh, yes.
It's the same thing, right? So we have these energies in the body that have been, in ancient philosophy for thousands of years, and then science learns them as DNA, names them DNA. But we talk about them and approach them in different ways, but ultimately they're the same thing. It's just exploring them from different angles and perspectives. So this is what I mean by it takes the science of the spiritual philosophies and brings them together to something that's more tangible and more relatable in today's modern world.
Wow.
So I really resonated with it. And I know I did an astrology course, and hats off to you, because I mean, it blew my mind. It was so, for the way that I learn, it really just boggled me. And I got invited to do an advanced astrology course. I was like, oh, I'll pass, thanks. It's too complicated for me. But human design, and particularly Jenna Zoe, who I trained with, really makes it relatable and prescriptive, so that I can then read a chart without having to worry about what the interpretations are. How does it, relate to this and this and this? Whereas I can read a chart and it's much more scientific and prescriptive. And I just resonate with that in terms of my understanding level. It just helps me to explain it better to people. Because like I say, hats off to you, because I was so boggled by astrology when I tried to learn.
So I learned through Deborah Silverman. I'm not sure whether you've heard of her, but she's got a school called Applied Astrology, and it's basically putting the elements into astrology. And that's what I really love about it. And she's a psychotherapist as well as an astrologer. So she put the two together with sort of a bit elements of trying to weave in a bit of Jungian psychology in there. I was like, yes, I studied psychology as part of my health studies course at college. This is beautiful.
Oh, perfect. I love it when it's relatable, and when it can adapt to the modern world. I just love it when that happens. I think it makes it so much more special, because it makes so much more sense to the people that we're trying to explain it to, and the people that need to hear it.
Yeah, exactly. Yay. I don't know what to where to go next.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you would like to talk to us about?
I guess let's I mean, I can talk about human design all day, like you can talk about astrology all day, and I love where it meets, and it's working and coming from the same place. So when we have our next week, because you and I are going to exchange services, aren't we?
We are.
I don't know if you'd be up, but it would be worth us doing another one of these afterwards and just discuss how we felt each way, and the things that resonated and things that collaborated and all those things. Because I think
definitely. I would love to do that. Yes.
And I also just, I guess, to say that yoga is part of my life. Is a part of my life since I don't know, 13 years. It's all the 13s, isn't it? But I haven't stopped that. In my space, just sat here doing human design. I guess my purpose now is to try and incorporate all of my experiences and all the things that I've learned and the tools that I have and bring them into one modality. So I'm really trying to focus now on, I'm calling it personal development mentoring, because I didn't want to go down the coaching route simply because I like to tell people what to do, and that's not the that's not the purpose of coaching.
It's really not. I'm sure there are lots of coaches out there that feel that way, and if that works for them, great, but not here. I'm sure that you can attest to this as well, Luke, but definitely with astrology, it's a case of helping you to realize your potential. And I always say that astrology brings back the compassion into society, and that astrology helps us see ourselves and others through that lens of loving kindness and compassion.
And I absolutely agree. It's like, if I can relate this to my professional world, there's a lot of personality profiling tools out there that are used in the business workplace, and I guess the idea of those is to help you get along better with your colleagues, right? So that you can understand them better, you can understand why they work the way that they do and why that you work the way you do, and behaviors and interactions and etc. And for me, astrology and human design are exactly that, but they're more human.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they bring us into the real world outside of the workplace, because nobody is their true self in the workplace for the most part, because we all have to put on a persona in the workplace in order to do our jobs. So, from in the real world, I think when it comes to our loved ones, our families, our connections, our friends, the people that really matter in our world, I think that it gives us a language to understand who they are and why they are, and who we are and why we are.
Yeah.
I think so. I've been. Oh, sorry. Carry on. I won't interrupt.
Oh no, I was just going to say that I wondered what the connection was, how your husband and your children feel about your new direction, and whether they're seeing it with a happier, healthier Luke, and how they see you and what you do now as opposed to what you did previously. And because I know that yoga is obviously a part of life, it's not just a physical asana practice. It's taking it off from that connecting breath and movement back into the world. It's taking it off the mat into the world. And I'm just wondering, as you say, that obviously yoga is still part of your life, just not always directly just the asana practice of it. What your new direction is like for your family too.
Let me give you a little example. One day, my husband came down at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was out in the back garden, and I was scrubbing and cleaning a rug that we have that just needed to clean, because kids and dogs are messy. So I was out there scrubbing away at 8 o'clock in the morning. I was probably out there for an hour cleaning this thing, and he came downstairs. He was like, "Luke, you're like a whole new person." He's like, "What is this? Where have you found this energy? Where, because I honestly feel like I've been walking around as a zombie for the last however many years. I don't know, that long that I can't remember. And I feel like I've just woken up. And this is all through human design. I guess the theory is that you don't live, if you don't live by your human design, you don't get the best out of life. And that physically can affect your health, your mental health, just the world around you, the things that you attract into your life, etc. And when I started to discover my human design, and even more importantly, and I wrote a post about this recently, my human design digestion type.
Yes,
has been a big old journey for me. I say digestion, diet. Sorry, it's not just about digestion, but diet in general has been a big journey for me. Not weight loss necessarily, but the things that I put into my body and how I fuel myself. But through human design, I've found the best methods that work directly for me based on my birth chart. And it's like I've woken up. Like I don't know what's happened, but I have energy, I have joy, I have cognitive, like good, I'm able to create thoughts. I'm not just foggy all the time. The depression and other things that were going on for me have all lifted, and I just feel like I've woken up from something. I don't know what's been happening, but the last X amount of years have just felt like a total blur in comparison to now, and I didn't know that I could feel this good. And so, yeah, my husband and my children are now getting daddy back.
Yay!
Because there were points, I mean, obviously, I'm going to talk before I even had my accident. I would just have to lay on the sofa all day and just watch the children because I couldn't physically get off the sofa because I was so fatigued. And, and I've just got two kind of feral children running around the house because I can't physically parent them, or I would be in so much chronic pain that I couldn't lift the children up. So I couldn't even pick them up properly to carry them around the house, to put them in the bath, to change their nappy, whatever, So I was useless as a parent, and then all the judgment creeps in on top of that because I should be better. I shouldn't feel like this, all of the shoulds. And all of that has just changed because I've discovered the best way for me to live my life.
Yeah.
And so it's massively impacted my family. And just to loop back a bit, I guess I've been through this process of offering personal development mentoring at my new place because what I want to do is incorporate human design into that. And I start everything with human design, and I work from a space of human design when I'm mentoring people. And then I can incorporate the yoga philosophy that I've learned. I can incorporate healing through whatever methods work for people, Reiki, tapping, whatever, and I want to not be confined to one thing because human design isn't one thing. Human design is our whole life. And it's the way that we approach our life, not just our work, not just our family, but the whole world that we create around us. And I'm trying to bring that into what I do now. And I'm trying to bring that into my family too. So my children, I'm trying to feed by their human design digestion type. Same with my husband.
Wow.
I'm trying to understand that they are generators. So two of my husband and my eldest are generators, and my youngest is a manifesting generator. So I'm trying to understand and educate them that I'm different as a projector and that you are different to me as generators. And we're using that kind of language to help understand each other so that we can be a unit where we play on each other's strengths and not a unit where we get frustrated because we're different.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah,
I
so it's
can
really
totally relate to the whole digestion thing, obviously, as somebody with inflammatory bowel disease. So yeah, like you, I've tried lots of different diets, and what works for me is a low lactose one. But generally, I can eat pretty much most things, but it's just sort of removing the sort of like seeds and pips and skins and cooking things out fully and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that I wouldn't have found without so much of my own sort of growth as well. So like you, with the kind of need to transform my life, I found that when I was at uni, I was getting major fatigue, trying to do nursing, and come 2:00 in the afternoon, I would be zonked. Didn't matter whether I was interested in something or not.
Yeah.
Completely zonked, completely wiped out, falling asleep every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And then come doing years later, after realizing that wasn't quite my path, doing some work in dementia care, although having the sort of therapeutic relationship with clients, and ultimately reaching a point where I was helping them transition through dying, basically. At the end of that, a lot of that was great, but obviously there's the toll on the mind. But if the body's not there with you and you're still not in your purpose, you're still not actually addressing half the issues. And I was finding I had really bad arthropathy, so I was like falling over and couldn't use hoists. I couldn't literally lift things I wanted to lift, couldn't move come 8 in the evening. So if you're working a late shift, which finishes at 9 o'clock, dead on 8 o'clock, you can't do anything, you're useless.
Yeah, right. And I
So,
think this is fascinating, because I think this is where I talk about wanting, and again, I'm using the term wake up, but I just don't like it, but I don't have a better word. But people to wake up from that. There's so many people that would put up with that would live in that inability to fulfill their job, and then would be frustrated, would frustrate their employers and their colleagues, because that is not what's meant for them. But they live in, that's all that they know. And that's what feels safe, and that's what society tells us to do. And like yourself and like myself, we've been through transformation, a lot of it forced transformation. You know, but it's given us this opportunity to realize that that's not what we're meant to do, and that there are other things in the world, and we can still create, we can still earn money, we can still live wonderful lives without the need to do something that is literally destroying us. And that's what my passion and purpose is to bring people from the state that we were in into, you know, the state that we are learning now. And it's always an ever-growing dance and growth. Of course, it's not, you know, a flick a switch and life is wonderful. But at least we now have tools to know how to look after ourselves and to achieve better things in the world for us.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, for me, yoga was my healing tool, and it still is. Every morning on my bed, I'll do about 5-10 minutes of sort of like a yin style waking up. That's what I call it. It's my wake up.
Lovely. Yeah, and that's all you need. I think people, I think, overcomplicate it. I think I must sit and meditate for an hour a day and float off into the ether, you know, or, you know, I must do this whole practice 5 or whatever. But it's not. It's the simple stuff. It's the 5 or 10 minutes, like you say, before you get out of bed, that just keep you sane. You know, for me, my sanity thing every morning is having a hot bath. It doesn't matter if it's like 30 degrees outside, I'm in a hot bath every morning. And that's my thing, right? And we all have, we can incorporate these small things into our lives without even realizing what they are, or them having a big impact, you know, from taking time away from us perspective, but yet having a huge impact in terms of a wellness perspective.
Definitely. I always chant in the shower.
Good.
Chanting to Kali, chanting for the chakras. Chakra clearing chant.
And again, you're doing that in the process of something that you're already doing, so it's not consuming any time in your day.
No, exactly.
You know, so people say they don't have time for self-care. I'm like, come on. You do. You know, do it while you're showering. Doesn't matter. You know, do what you need to do. I listen to affirmations at nighttime, and so do my children. So again, we're feeding our subconscious with all this beautiful energy that overturns the negativity that we learn growing up, or the limiting beliefs or whatever. And I'm just changing all of that by doing something that takes no time at all. I just literally stick on some affirmations and fall asleep.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we can so easily incorporate these things into our world without it being a big deal. And again, that's me trying to, my purpose, to get people in the world to realize these things.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm there too. Every single day, somebody will do or say something, and I'll have looked at chart in the morning, or I always track where the moon is and that sort of thing. It's a case of, oh, do you realize how on point with astrology you are right now? For instance, what you were talking about with digestion and things, I can't remember what it was that the specific aspect was, but I did realize that, okay, during the Taurus, come on, Emily, Taurus eclipse anyway. During the Taurus eclipse anyway, that's it, total lunar eclipse in Taurus, there was actually something that came up from one of the aspects about diet, and I'm thinking, there could be people with anxiety and needing positive changes in their diet. Okay. And then I realized, a few days ago, I'd read your post all about diet. I was like, no way, you're living out the astrology by then unearthing it, like bringing it up to the surface for people to see, getting the flow there.
I love what happens.
It's there.
Yeah, amazing.
And
to the further, for people that aren't sure about it, it only just adds to that further, like, no, it's real.
Definitely real.
Really it plays out. I think if we can just touch on my diet story just for a moment, what was really interesting for me is that I've been on this diet journey for years. My dad the same, and we've never really got to the point where we've resolved anything. And then I finally, after all these years, I started going to a herbalist, and I've been working with a herbalist for 2 years, and we get to this point now, and she's like, okay, you need to try this specific diet, which, as you know from my post, is actually a carnivore diet, which shocked the life out of me. I didn't think a herbalist would recommend that, and I certainly think it'd be something I'd be doing, because I was vegetarian for a while, and my intention was always to try and get back to that. So I didn't think that this was going to be, I was like, oh, come on, really? But then I started doing it through kind of need, and everything started changing. I started feeling so good and so healthy, and my energy came back and everything else. And then I realized my digestion type in human design is the oldest digestion type, which is based on hunter-gatherers, specifically for me, more based around hunter. So it's like, wow, I've spent all these years, and my dad did too, trying to figure out digestion and what the best diet is for me. And it's been written down right there the whole time in black and white in my human design chart. Wow. And for me, that blew my mind. And I was like, wow. And I got to the point of it working before I discovered that. So it was really hard hitting when I heard it. And I was like, well, this human design stuff definitely works, because I've spent, 37 years trying to figure this out. And I finally figured it out. And then human design tells me, as I could have got the message earlier. But without that story and that journey, I probably wouldn't have believed it. So it's been really fascinating. And again, this is where I want to work with people who don't understand what's going on. There's so many people that struggle with diet and understanding their digestion, and I want to work with those people and help them not to have to go through all the stuff that me and my dad went through, when the answer is right there in black and white, and that could work instantaneously, effectively.
Yes.
And it's not just about what you eat. For some people, it's about how they eat or where they eat. So my children, one of them needs to eat cold food, and the other one needs to eat in daylight hours. Okay. And my husband needs to eat on repeat, so that he eats the same thing every day. Same thing for breakfast, same thing for lunch, and variety through seasons, or, one meal a day is different, whatever. But so it's been really interesting. It's not just about the what you eat. For me, it is. Other people, it can just be as simple as making sure that you eat near a window in the light rather than eating on the sofa in the dark. It can be as simple as that. Wow,
that's amazing.
It really is. And I can't wait to, well, I know yours, but I'm not telling you yet.
No. Darn. It's like, I know something you don't know.
We'll say that.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, it is definitely, everything is a process and everything's a journey, and it is amazing if we can help people out by either astrology or human design, and actually showing them there are a few things that you could try. This is a suggestion, that's also a suggestion, but obviously everything is free will, and it's a case of what works for you might not work at this time in life, but later on you'll grow into realizing who you are, and then you'll have some of those answers, which are actually there written all along, as you saw.
I think it's really interesting that, the diet industry, and I've worked in the diet industry, you might know that.
Really? No, I didn't know.
Oh, okay. So, I was promoting a weight loss diet for some time because I did it and it worked well for me. The reason it worked well for me is because it was in alignment with my human design eating. But then the method of that would tell you, as most of the diet industry things tell you, that this one thing will work for anybody, and that is just not the case. We're all completely different in the way, and each of our human design charts, just like each of our astrology charts, are totally unique.
Yeah.
When you boil down to the nitty-gritty details behind the surface charts, they are completely unique. And that's why one diet doesn't work for all. So that's why I wrote in my post specifically, am I recommending my diet type for you? Absolutely not. I'm recommending it to the people that would have a similar digestion type to me, yes. And everybody else, there's something else out there for you that will work better in your favor, because we are all different. And again, one of my purposes is to encourage people to realize that, this one size fits all approach that we seem to see in marketing particularly just isn't the case. That just isn't the world that we live in. That's not how humans are designed. We're all individual, unique beings, as we know through astrology, as we now know through human design.
Yeah.
So creating bespoke stuff for people, it really is what I want to do, because I don't want to be the person that I was pushing a product or a belief that I thought would work for everyone.
Yes. I think that is crucial to anybody's soul growth, really.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all individual beings, and once we recognize that, we have greater power to change ourselves.
That's definitely another Scorpio topic as well, about power. It's about how you use your power, whether you use it for obviously good or for ill, and also whether you recognize your internal power versus the power of the collective, or like government, health services, wherever.
That's a big conversation.
Sorry?
That's a big conversation.
Yeah, isn't it just? My muggle job is in the health service, so yeah. But we won't go there.
Okay, another one.
Which is probably one of the reasons why I'm preferring more holistic health and well-being, and treating the person rather than treating the case.
Yes, that's really interesting. And I think a lot of people go through that. And I certainly work with a lot of people from the healthcare industry who have that realization too, that, nothing is tick box, nothing is one diagnosis for one person. If someone else gets the same diagnosis, it doesn't mean the same thing to them. That we all work in different ways, our bodies heal in different ways, and it's just accessing, as you say, the more holistic approach that is going to work on an individual basis, rather than a sheep dip approach, which works for, say, 60% of people, but not the other 40.
Yeah. And actually avoiding as many medications as possible. Because, yeah.
Which is why I've had the best results through a medical herbalist than I have through Western medicine.
It's choosing your poison, literally.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a big conversation. I can have that conversation.
Okay, I probably should stop that. Are there... so when it comes to integrating personal development tools, I know you say that obviously there's yoga, but there's also the personal development side with starting everything from human design. How do you then fit tarot into that? Because I know that that's one of the other tools that you offer.
Yeah, I love tarot. I'm not your generic tarot reader. I don't. Well, you might kill me for this, but I don't follow the textbooks. I put stuff and on that. I don't follow rules very well at all, actually.
No, I'm not great one at that either.
But so I work intuitively with tarot. But yeah, I allow within my personal development mentoring access to all of my services, because there, as you know, when people come to you, one time they might come to you and they've got something in mind that they want to work with, and then you think, great, next time I see you, I'm going to help you develop on that. And then they come back next and I'm like, no, this whole other thing's going on. They need to work on something else. And your plan goes out the window for them because they need to lead you, right? They need to lead what they need, and we need to meet them where they're at. So for me, there'll be times when they need guidance, you know, when they need some spiritual intuition. So if they come to me and they're in a moment of needing guidance, then I can pull the cards, right? And I can give them some guidance from the universe based on what the cards are delivering that day. So that's how I would incorporate it. You know, with any of my services, some days they might just need to get on the mat and do some yoga because they have some physical challenges with their body. They're feeling emotional. They may be stuck. They might need some fluid motion, you know, some vinyasa flow to get moving again. So I just meet people where they're at. And so I have an idea of what I would like to work with them with, but if they come to me with something else in that time, in that moment, I'm going to meet them where they're at, and we're going to use a modality that I have that is going to best serve them that day. Whatever.
Yeah, I agree. That's the same kind of thing that I want to eventually do within what I offer. And everything that I offer has that preface that actually you can manifest your life, manifest your dreams, because we are, excuse me, we are all divine beings having a human experience, and we need to embrace the humanness and actually allow for some of that, and know that, yeah, some of it is going to be messy, some of it's going to be beautiful, and some of it's somewhere in between. And we never know exactly where we're going to be at any given moment.
Yeah.
But it's holding that space for ourselves, holding our space for our clients and our guests. And yeah.
I mean, I agree. I think that I didn't want to be someone that just offered this one service anymore, which is what I was doing before, just offering the yoga, because I just think that, as you say, life is a bit of a dance, isn't it? We're not one thing, and you know, this week and the same thing next week. We're always transitioning and changing and moving. We have thoughts, emotions, feelings, our physical bodies doing stuff. So I think the more that we can be fluid and open to meeting people where they're at, rather than trying to force this one method, I think that's where I'm at with my business, is trying to give people options that meet them where they're at.
Yes, actually, that's one thing that I've been doing recently as well, because I thought, well, how can I reach people who aren't quite sure that spirituality, in how they see it, it exists, and it's a case of, right, how do I show that actually this is just a way of bringing yourself back into alignment with the world around you and who you are and your place in that world. And it's a case of, right, okay, how can I do this and reach more people? So I've started making a planner, which shows you then where the lunar phases are. So you see the new moons and the full moons and the quarter moons, because I thought making all 8 phases in there would just be a bit confusing for some people. So I'll show that. It's also got lots of colour in it, so it's not boring and bland. And also has space for gratitude, because I think it's important every day for us to talk about what we're grateful for, or whether it's just to choose a few minutes to think about it. Okay, I'm still breathing air, I'm still alive, I got up today.
Yeah.
If that's all you can achieve in that particular day, that's fine.
And it is that simple.
Yeah, and then other days, oh, I actually managed to do these things and tick them off my to-do list.
Yeah.
And there is obviously a space for the daily to-dos and appointments, but then there's also space for reflection, so that you've got new moon, you can set intentions if you want to, or you can just be mindful and reflect and use affirmations. Full moon, again, gratitude, what have I achieved, and then what do I still want to achieve? And am I wanting to change course a bit, tweak it, you know, hone, adjust, and all that sort of thing. So I've put all of that into a planner, and I'm trying to digitalize it as well, so that people can, if they want it on their phone or on their desktop computer, whatever, they've got it. That's what I'm doing at the moment.
Wonderful. So. Very useful. I think just anything that you can make to simplify it for people and to give them a tool I think is what great, because it makes it more accessible.
Yeah. As you say, there's a lot of people out there that want to have spiritual things in their lives, or they want to change their way of being and make necessary adjustments because whatever they're doing isn't working. And if we can give those tools to people to allow them to do that, that's great.
Yeah.
So they can make what works for them out of it. They don't have to do it exactly as we suggest. It's just purely suggestion.
Right. Good. I love that.
I do want to just quickly show the top I'm wearing as well, in light of the markets that I'm part of. I made this design. It says falling for pumpkin spice. And the handle of it is a moon. And if anybody's here from the market as well, I also sell this cushion.
Love them.
Is there anything else you would like to talk about, Luke?
Oh, we've covered a lot, Emily.
We have, haven't we? Trying to put the worlds to right.
A good deep dive today. But yeah, like I said, I think it would be awesome for us to do this after we've shared our services next week, and see what comes of that, because I think that we're both going to leave with some greater insight.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay then. So shall we wrap up?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. So where can people find you, Luke? What would you like them to know?
Well, they can spell my name.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you actually. It looks like it could be a Greek last name. Is that right?
My husband's Greek.
Your husband's Greek?
Yeah, I took his name when we got married. So yeah, lukevoulgarakis.com or at Luke Voulgarakis on Facebook and TikTok. Well, I've not been doing much on TikTok lately. My Instagram got hacked, so I don't have Instagram anymore. But yeah, so obviously I can see the name scrolling across the bottom there, so.
I managed to make it work at last.
So yeah, so it's not easy to spell. My business is LV Life, but my handle is Luke Voulgarakis.
Okay. All right, brilliant. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you to anybody who joined us on the comments, and anyone watching on the replay later. It will be available, so thank you.
Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, see you next week. Have an amazing day.
You too.